Hey, my name's James Nicholson and welcome to my channel. In this video, we're going to talk about why buy-to-let is dead. What does that mean for investors? And can you still make any money in property? Well, look, this channel is all about documenting my property journey. I'm building my own portfolio, but not only that, I'm building a portfolio for my two daughters. We've got Georgia, who's 21. We've just bought our first deal. We've got our second deal completing at the moment, and you can check all of that out on this channel, exactly the properties that we've bought, and my new baby, Amelie, who's just one. We're building a portfolio for both. Now, how can you join us on the journey and see how that all works? Take that finger of power, give it a spin around and smash that subscribe button right there. Go on, do it right now. Smash the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. Then you'll get notified of all the disasters, all the positive stuff, and everything that happens on this journey. So come and join us on that journey. Now, let's talk about buy-to-let. Is it dead? Well, I think at the moment, buy-to-let is potentially volatile for investors, and here's why. There's tons of things that have happened in recent years that have been like potentially the nail in the coffin of the buy-to-let market, and maybe they weren't quite as bad as we thought. So first off, it's a scary one to say. Don't talk to your friends or family about this one, but it's Brexit, right? Brexit was a few years ago, and we all would have assumed that the property market was going to crash. And it didn't, right? It just didn't. There was a little temporary blip maybe for a few months, but the market didn't really have much of a correction. And so that didn't really impact us. Now, the next one, I'm sure you can remember this one, is the pandemic, right? Now, this one surely was going to make the market crash. We were all locked in our houses. Every business was going to go bankrupt. But what happened was, I personally felt the government dealt with it fairly well. Now, you might disagree with me on that one, and you can sound off in the comments if you do. But the fact is that I'm also a business coach and mentor, right? And I have tons of clients that would have completely been wiped out if they didn't get a bounce back loan, didn't get furlough for their staff. They would have just got rid of everyone, right? And so the government putting those schemes in, we're going to pay for those. But at that time, it was what was needed to happen to keep those businesses trading, right? So the pandemic was potentially the next death or nail in the coffin for buy-to-let. And it didn't. In fact, house prices significantly rose, particularly in rural areas that don't go up very fast. I've got a portfolio in Hastings, and that was one of the fastest growing places in the whole of the country. And I didn't know that was going to happen, but I'm bloody pleased. Like 10, 15 years ago, I started investing in Hastings. So the pandemic, that potentially was going to do something. Now, the next one, inflation. Is inflation going to kill the buy-to-let market? Now, time will tell on that one, but what is happening with inflation, which is good for investors like us, is every pound that you borrow is being devalued. So if you borrow 100 grand, right now, today, you can buy 100 grand worth of stuff. But if you bought that 100 grand, put it in your bank, the buying power of that 100 grand with 10% inflation, which we're at, is only going to give you 90 grand worth of goods in a year from now. And so that's good if you have debt. Right, so potentially those people that have debt, it's good. Now, because everything's getting more expensive, the property market is still going up as well. Now, what is going to happen though is that the market is going to cool off for sure in the next 2 years, in the next 2 years, 24 months, right? The market is definitely going to cool down. And that's not necessarily because of inflation, but what they use to curb inflation, which is interest rate rises. And so money borrowing is getting more expensive. Now, lots of people are acting like we're already at 10% interest. Today's borrowing is still cheaper than before the pandemic. It's very cheap to borrow money still. And so if you borrow today and fix it for 5 years, it's still incredibly good, right? So you don't need to worry too much about rates rising if you're buying today. But what I do think that is if you're buying in a year from now or 2 years from now, then it's going to be more expensive to borrow money. So today's market is still very good. So now, why do I think that's potentially bad for just normal vanilla buy-to-let investors? Well, buy-to-let investors have done very well in the last few years. Just standard. I'm talking about, when I say just a normal buy-to-let investor, I mean someone that buys an apartment that's a new build, or they buy a house that's in perfect condition and they're just ready to go on the market, right? There's no money that they can add any value to that property. Those sorts of investments are a little more risky because the market's going to slow down, right? So the prices are not going to rise in the next few years like they have done for the last 2 years. That's just certain. Now, they will still possibly go up, but it might be 1% a year, or they might go down a few percent, or we might have a crash. And so when you're on a buy to let, if you borrow 100 grand and the property goes down, then you're not going to go into negative equity because you had to put your 25% deposit in there. But if you're sold, you kind of are going to lose some money, aren't you? Because you're not going to pay back your mortgage, because you're going to be on on an interest-only mortgage, and you're going to have less of your equity in there. That is going to be eroded. So that means that it's not great. It also means you're not going to be able to pull out money to do new deals. Your money's going to get stuck in that property. So if you want to make money in today's market, what should you be doing? How should you be investing your money? Well, I firmly believe that every deal that you buy should be below market value. I think that's very, very important at this time, because if you buy below market value, you can add value to a property very, very easily. And by doing that, then you can build equity in your property. That can protect you from the market fluctuations. It also can build some equity that you can release to do your next deal, or get all of your money or some of your money out of that deal. So let's look at some figures. And I need to think of some more do some other examples, but I'm going to use my Doncaster one because I've just done it. We've just finished it this week. So it's easy, it's fresh in my head. But I promise I'll show you some of my other deals as well. Right, so we bought an auction for 60 grand. And if you want to see how that worked, do go and check out on this channel. There's an hour-long video of me actually buying at auction, actually what I did, all the analysis that I did before. It shows you some special legal stuff that I did. You can check that out. It's actually a pinned comment below this video as well. So do go and check out that process. It's very interesting. I wish I had a video like that I could have watched before buying, because it was, I think, the documentation, I've never seen anything like anyone else doing that. So do check that out. So that's in the comments. So I bought it for 60 grand, right? 2-bedroom terrace house up in Doncaster, Burton Avenue. Now, next, we spent 15 grand doing it up. Actually, we spent less, but it's easy, round numbers. We spent 12 grand doing it up in the end, but 15's easier to just look at the figures. So that means we're all in for this deal for 75 grand, right? All in for 75 grand, brilliant. Like, now, when we bought this property, it was a mess. Like, the kitchen, you wouldn't like eat in there. Like, bathroom, I would not go to the toilet in that place or even have a shower. Like, if I had a shower, I'd be going straight back to my hotel and having another shower. It was grim. And you can see, there's also a video on this channel. I did a tour of it, so you can see what it looked like. Carpets, they were just sticky, messy, horrible, wallpaper everywhere, gross, right? So it needed a full refurb. And so there are houses on that street selling for £100,000 already. So I knew that's where we could get it to. So we got it revalued at £100,000, which is cool, right? So what does that mean? Well, what it means is that we've now able to go back to the bank, which is what we've just done this week, and we get a buy-to-let mortgage on it. Now, a buy-to-let mortgage, they will lend you 75% loan to value, 75%. So that means that with that, we are able to pull out all of our money. So if they feel the house is worth 100, which they did, they will lend me 75. I spent 75 on it. In fact, we made a grand or two. We made a grand or two, not much, but it's a grand or two that I didn't have. And so we've got a mortgage now, or we will have by next week, for £75,000. So the bank is going to send me £75,000, and then we'll be on an interest-only payment of like a couple of £100 a month. And the rent, it rented out for £575 within 4 hours or something crazy. It's insane how quickly it rented out. And so we'll make, after all like fees and stuff, about 275 profit a month, which is pretty good, right? Hopefully it won't need much maintenance because we've just done everything, but we'll keep some money aside for that as well. So what that means is that we've created, by doing some work, 25% equity, right? Now, buy to let is really going to be hard, but if you use the buy, refurbish, refinance, rent strategy, you might be able to take one deposit for buy to let, and if it worked like this, which it won't every time, but if it did work like this, you would be able to recycle your deposit and then go again. So how many times would you do that? You'd do that as many times as you could, right? And so you would keep investing and keep investing and keep investing, and you could turn one deposit into 10. Now, sometimes it might not work out like that. So this house could have got valued at 90, right? It could have got valued at £90,000. And then we're not going to get the full £75,000 out. So if we did that, let's see, 90... they would have given us 67,500 if it got valued at 90. So the bank would give us back out 67,500 if it got down valued to 90, which could happen. But that's still better than buy to let. So that means that in that deal, we would have left 5 and we would have left £7,500 in the deal if we did that, right? Whereas on a buy to let, if you bought a £100,000 house and this was one that was done up, because you'd be doing a £100,000 house, you'd be buying the one that's already refurbished and good to go, you're leaving £25,000 in the deal because you need a 25% deposit. So when you can buy below market value, you can create value, add value. I've done this in other properties in other ways. So let me explain some other ways that I've added value to properties. I've got a studio flat where I've turned that into a 1-bedroom property. That cost £5,000 to do and added £50,000 in value because it was in the southeast. I've got another 1-bedroom flat where I turned it from 1 bedroom into a 2-bedroom flat, and that added around £40,000 in value to that property and cost a bit more. It cost about £12,000, but that was because there was loads of levels and different floorboards needed raising and all sorts of more expensive work. But that cost around £12,000. I've got a 3-bedroom house down in Hastings, and that property was just a wreck. We refurbed it, we insulated it, we took it back to brick, we replastered it, new bathrooms, everything looks beautiful in there. And that property, we added around £50,000 in value. So we've added value by doing different things, and that allows you to pull out money and then go again and go again and go again. And so buy to let in this market is good if you just want one deal, you just want an easy life. But if you really want to build a portfolio, then buy to let now isn't necessarily great. However, it will become good, right? So I'm not saying if you just want to do a buy to let, it's a bad thing necessarily. What I'm saying is that if you do a different strategy, which is the refurbish, refinance and rent strategy, then you could turn one deposit into 4, 5, 6. Now, some properties you won't get all your money out, so you might get stuck at the 6th one and not get your money back out or half your money back out. But it allows you to keep going that little bit longer and build a portfolio. You're more protected against the market because this 25% equity you've built is not really any money that you've put in. It's been created artificially by adding value. So if the market drops 15%, you're not in negative equity. You've still got that percentage in there. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this. What do you think about buy to let? Is it something you'd do in this market, or do you believe, like I do, that the buy, refurbish, refinance model is a better strategy? Comment below. Join us in our Facebook group as well. So in the description, we got a link to Facebook, and you can join us in there and let's have a discussion about what your beliefs are in property. You can help me with stuff, I can help you with stuff. There's hundreds of people in there now, so join us there. And if you didn't earlier, smash that like button over there, guys. That helps me with YouTube. Do it now quickly. Give it a little tickle. That really helps me get more viewers on this. And if you didn't subscribe, get us to 1,000. That's where we're trying to get to. Maybe you're watching this and we're already in thousands and thousands and thousands, but when I recorded this, we were at 900. So get us to 1,000, please. Thank you for watching. Check out all the other videos, and particularly go and check out this one here. Bye for now.